Welcome to Game 7 of the 2014 Greendale Panther football season. Tonight's game is the last of the scheduled games as the 6-0 Greendale Panthers will be hosting the 3-3 Pius XI Popes. No, it's not Friday, it's Thursday as Channel 24 wanted to broadcast the game as part of their Thursday night light series. Between that, a Packer game, and the weather, tonight's crowd is on the small side, but nevertheless, the show must go on. Greendale would kick first to start the game. After a short return, the Pius Popes would have to start from their 20. You could see right off the bat the difference between the team's speed. You would also see that the Panthers' defense really likes to swarm to the ball. The Popes failed to get a first down and they were forced to line up for a punt on their 15 going 3 and out. This was when bad things started to happen for Pius. They managed to get the first punt off, but there was a penalty on the play, so they had to re-kick. This time the ball sailed over the punter's head all the way out of the back of the end zone, thus resulting in a safety. Greendale was already winning 2-0 just 1 minute 36 seconds into the game, and their offense has not even stepped onto the field. After the Popes' free kick and a nice return by T.A. Kimmins, Greendale would now take over on the Popes' 34, looking at a real short field. It didn't take long to find the end zone, for on the very first play, Panther quarterback Josh Ringelberg found Kimmins on a deep post route and hooked him up with a pass for Greendale's first touchdown of the night. Kicker Josh Michaels made the extra point, making the score 9-0 with 10:09 left in the first quarter. Popes would start their next drive on their 22. Either they don't like their run game or they really like their passing game because that's all they were doing. They ran off 6 plays before having to line up for a punt for the second time of the game. Ringelberg would now set his offense up on the 40 after the punt. They ended up turning the ball over on downs as the usually sharp executing offense seemed a little dull this time around. There were poor passes, poor pitches, and drop balls which you normally don't see. Pius now had possession of the ball on their 39. Again, they tried passing, but their quarterback ended up running for his life more than anything else as the defensive secondary was doing a great job covering the receivers downfield. That just gave the rushers more time to hunt down and get to the quarterback. They eventually forced the Popes to punt for the third time of the game. After a poor punt, Greendale had another short field in front of them. It would be starting from Pius' 25. Here again, the offense didn't look sharp and ended up turning the ball over on downs on the Popes' 37. Pius was trying real hard to find a weakness in the Panthers' defense. Maybe they pushed it a little bit too hard for on the third play. Defensive back Angel Ramirez jumped the pass route and intercepted a pass on the Panthers' 43. 4 plays later, and now into the second quarter, Greendale crossed the goal line again on a 4-yard quarterback sneak by Ringelberg. The point after try was good, making the score 16-0 with 11:13 left in the second quarter. After a little better of a return, Pius would start their next drive on the 32. All they could do was string 5 plays together before having to punt once again. After a much better kick, Greendale would be forced to start from their 14. This time the offense seemed to be clicking as they crossed the field using all of their weapons. On the 9th play, Ringelberg scrambled his way out of trouble on a pass play and did what he does best by zigzagging his way all the way to the end zone from 26 yards out. That would be called back on a block in the back penalty, so the Panthers were now on the 31. They eventually turned the ball over on downs, coming away with nothing on what was a nice drive. The Popes were now in desperate need of putting a scoring drive together. It seemed like they had something going, but on the 4th play, one of the receivers made a nice catch, but then had the ball stripped away by safety Jack Ringelberg. Matt Judy would recover the ball for Greendale on their 44. Plays later, Greendale gave the ball right back to the Popes as Ringelberg threw in the heavy coverage and was intercepted on the Panthers' 48. There was now 2:33 left in the first half, and the Popes had their best field position of the night. That would change as Greendale backed them up to their 33 in 5 plays, forcing them to punt for the 5th time of the game. Greendale would now line up on their 40 after the kick. Plays later, Ringelberg would throw his second interception of the game, which was returned to the Popes' 47. The game was kind of getting sloppy all of a sudden as Pius fumbled the ball on their very first play back to Greendale on the Popes' 48. 2 plays later, Ringelberg dropped back to pass but decided to take off running and eventually crossed the goal line from 39 yards out. Point after try was good, increasing their lead by a score of 23-0 with just 39 seconds left in the first half. After the ensuing kick, Pius would start from their 40. 2 plays later, Ramirez would get his second interception of the night at the Panthers' 30. Greendale would just take a knee to end the first half of play. second half would find Greendale getting the ball first. After a classic Angel Ramirez return, Greendale would take over 1st and 10 on their 43. Whatever Coach Rob Stoll said at halftime worked for on the very first play. Running back Jack Ringelberg found himself running down the field on a great effort and was eventually tackled on the Pope's 5. His brother Josh would finish the job on the next play, keeping it on an option and scoring from 5 yards out. Michaels made his kick, making the score 30-0 with 11:11 left in the third quarter. After the ensuing kick, Pius would have to start from their 24. The Panthers' fast and swarming defense again did their job and forced the Popes to punt for their 6th time of the game. After the return, Greendale took over on the Popes' 29. 3 plays later, Ringelberg found another one of his weapons in Josh Michaels for a 26-yard scoring strike. This time the kick would be wide to the left, but there were still enough points to start a running clock for the 4th game in a row. The score was now 36-0 with 8:51 left in the third quarter. After a nice return, Pius would start from their 41. 2 plays later, they ran a swing pass and somehow managed to get loose up the sideline as Adam Garcia scampered 52 yards for the Popes' first points of the game. After their first 2-point try failed, they would get another chance because of a Panther penalty, of which was successful, making the score 36-8 with 7:13 left in the third quarter. After the ensuing kick, it would begin from their 43. 3 plays later, they found themselves in the end zone again on a 17-yard Ringelberg to Ty Ramirez scoring strike. Michaels made his kick, making the score 43-8 with 6:26 left in the third. Popes would be pinned deep on their next drive following the kick. They ended up turning the ball over on downs after 8 plays back to Greendale on the Panthers' 42. Panthers now brought in their second team offense. In at quarterback would be David Wood. They managed to put 8 plays together before turning the ball over on downs at the Pius 18-yard line. When it rains hit force were on the Popes' very first play, they fumbled the ball, of which Greendale's Tommy Kajawa would recover on the Popes' 3. Unfortunately, Greendale failed to capitalize as the referees missed a call as they said Wood fumbled even though he was clearly already on the ground. The Popes now had the ball on their 3. 9 plays later, quarterback Tylen Rhodes threw a pass in the direction of Conrad Dudenhofer, who made an amazing one-handed catch for the Popes' second touchdown of the game. Rhodes would take it himself for the 2-point try, making a score of 43-16 with only 21 seconds left in the game. Panthers would just down the ball on the ensuing kick to end the game. The final score would be Greendale 43, Pius 11-16. Greendale was just too much for Pius as they have more overall team speed and more experience on the field. Pius also had a lot of injuries going into the game, so they had to rely on a lot of younger players to fill the voids. This concludes the normally scheduled games. It is now time for the crossover portion of the schedule. How that works is that the teams from both the Woodland East and the Woodland West will match up based on where they ended up in their respective standings. The first game by design will not be considered a conference game, so it won't affect anybody's chances in the playoffs. For the first round, the first place team from one conference will take on the second place team from the other conference, and the third place team will play the fourth place team, and so on down the line. The following week, the teams will face each other based on where they directly finished in each of their own standings. That game will count as a conference game. Based on that, this means that the Panthers will host the Brown Deer Falcons next week because the Falcons finished second place in the Eastern Division. The following week will put the first place teams together. This means that Greendale will be playing South Milwaukee in South Milwaukee for the overall Woodland Conference Championship. Next week's game against Brown Deer will start at 7 o'clock. Hope to see you all there. So long.